Gotta love the effects of cold weather on my sinuses. Hey, just a heads up, you guys, this video isn't my usual thing, and so is probably gonna be demonetized, so please do like, subscribe, and check out my Patreon. Hey guys, this is Kohdok here, and I'm actually a little scared. Because, you see, I came home today to find this unmarked package sitting on my table, and I don't know where it came from. I sure hope it's nothing illegal, or I probably wouldn't be filming it right now. Okay, it's the Nikke card game. And this actually isn't a bad spread. We got 2 starter decks, a handful of booster packs, a promo pack, a little packet of some more cards, and... oh. You know, I was wondering why my Xbox suddenly had Doom on it despite lacking an internet connection. Yep, looks like she found me. I guess she's mad that I made fun of her in my Uma Musume video. So, synapse check. How many of you have seen this freaking thing before? If you've been on the internet for a while, you might have. You see, this character did something that fandoms refer to as breaching containment. That being something from a niche fandom suddenly appearing on the wider internet without much context. In this case, this character broke containment through a combination of her amusing premise and her terrible outfit. This blonde weirdo wants nothing more than to install Doom on everything, and she does so while trying really hard to cram herself into a Misty from Pokemon costume that she clearly hasn't worn since she was actually 12 years old. And while I think she'd actually look better if she wore a more comfortable outfit better fitting of a gamer girl, I will concede that she would not be nearly as infamous if she did. This is Eleg, and she comes from a game called Nikke, Goddess of Victory. And what if I told you that she's probably one of the game's tamer designs? It's the end of the world, and in order to eke out a living, you must— oh hey, skip button! Yeah, I'm not going to dignify this game with any sort of deeper analysis when everybody knows its real intent is to let the player watch the girls' butts jiggle whenever they fire their guns. Now I'm sure fans of the game are going to crawl out of the woodwork and say that these characters, gynoids who I'm sure have a very interesting and definitely not creepy at all in-universe reason for squatting in fields of rusty shrapnel without pants, and how it's some sort of game about de-objectifying the characters and liberating women, and I, and many, call baloney. And never mind the fact that Nikke's plot isn't even that original. I mean, I've played Nier Automata, I've watched Ghost in the Shell, I've seen Blade Runner, I've read Frankenstein, and let me tell you what, Mary Shelley didn't seem to think that the monster needed a dump truck ass for us to find him interesting. And say what you want about Yoko Taro, at least the man is honest.
I like big butts and I cannot lie.
Honestly, I have more respect for the people who admit they just find the characters hot rather than trying to tout some higher message. So, around this time in the old script, I would go on a really long and painful rant about how many of the people are trying to claim Nikke as some sort of work of women's liberation and how those people are deluding themselves because, while yes, there are women who enjoy being sexy and wearing sexy outfits, there are also plenty who do not. It's one of the reasons I praise Uma Musume. It's a refreshing and believable variety of characters rather than a lowbrow collection meant to trigger the worst sorts of parasociality. You know, those games who produce single wedding rings as merchandise? Yeah, this is real. It's usually because this statement saying that women should be allowed to be sexy is often made into a wedge that insists that the sorts of women who would rather not do these sorts of things are somehow in the wrong, and that, frankly, is a bridge too far. Not to mention that whole only valuing women for their looks thing, which is, well, literally what objectification is. I mean, what happened over Ishmael's diver skin in Limbus Company sort of gave the game away on how these people were actually only pretending to support women's liberation in exchange for Jigglebutt, getting unreasonably upset over the fact that a female character, a sailor, literally named Ishmael, is wearing a piece of swimming gear that isn't a bikini. This was also real. You can look it up. It was horrific. It kind of feels like the game is counting more on its art to sell cards rather than gameplay, if the fact that there are American sellers of this game, despite no official English rulebook, is any indication. Kind of like a certain other card game I looked at earlier this year. This is disregarding all of the cards that just use literal in-game screenshots. So many screenshots, mostly of the characters' butts. It's tacky is what I'm trying to say, and that's without even bringing up the literal FBI open-up cards. Following this, I had a whole long discussion of art and the line between art that is objectifying and art that delivers character. Basically, a good crop of character designs will tell us what the characters are like through things such as posing, expression, and context clues. Going back to Uma Musume, even when the characters are wearing their virtually identical school uniforms, you can still glean a lot about these characters thanks to their posture, expression, and body language. The issue is that Nikke is full of character art whose posing and personality traits can be best interpreted as flirtatious mannequin. But let's add one more nail to the coffin, and let's do it with Eleg. I know, I didn't see this coming either. In this card, we see Eleg about to connect a pair of huge cables. However, she has a very mischievous expression going on here with her tongue sticking out, and based on the fact that she is currently cloaked in shadow, we can tell that she is up to no good. Something is going down the moment those cables are connected. Probably something blowing up. We get a lot of personality out of this image. Eleg is not only technologically savvy, she's also quite the troublemaker. No wonder Eleg escaped containment. She's like the one character they handled well. Literally the exception. Meanwhile, I couldn't tell you a thing about the character on card number 69. Her pose and expression lack that sort of edge, and I honestly thought those spikes on her back were part of the background at first. This character is posed with all of the energy of a cosplayer who never bothered to learn any poses. Hollow and flat. And the full version of the artwork really doesn't help. You know you're allowed to stop adding things to a design, right? And by stop, I don't mean stopping at the part where you fail to integrate her visually to this mess you've made. Oh my god, what is this character? And even the characters who are designed well in this game aren't given like any dignity at all. Sad, really. Didn't I say this was gonna be a quick lesson? And wasn't this video supposed to be about the card game? So, how is Nivel Arena?
It's actually kinda good.
You heard me! The freaking Nikke card game with all of its boobs all over the place is actually good. I just ranted about the source material for a while, but I think the card game is actually good. Okay, for clarity's sake, Nivel Arena isn't technically straight up the Nikke card game. They're more like a bunch of folks in South Korea took a look at Union Arena and how that was going and decided, ooh, we want some of that, and so made a game that was designed to be used with a bunch of different gacha games, I guess. Nikke just happened to be the first one, and the second, and the third. So the game originated in South Korea, and I don't know a lick of Korean, so the rules were initially impossible to translate as I am unfamiliar with the usual quirks and mistakes that translation programs tend to make, but recently it got a release in Japan, and I can read Japanese, so now I can properly translate the rules. To win a game of Nivel Arena, you must attack and damage your opponent through one of 3 lanes, forcing them to deal the top card of their deck into a damage row. You win by getting 10 cards into your opponent's damage row first. And from this, we actually get an interesting combination of mechanics that I have seen before, but never used this creatively. Probably the best way to describe it would be a simplified version of WeCross, as it uses both the lane system and the size mechanic.
Size mechanic.
It then combines this with the old Naruto card game's battle reward system, where the top card of the deck gets shaved off with each successful blow. But it's not just a basic combination of these two mechanics, they actually take the system a step further. Unlike WeCross, Nivel Arena doesn't use any resource cards at all. Instead, pay attention to these 2 gauges on the sides of the playmat: level and damage. So, the other games that use the size mechanic, Buddy Fight and WeCross, have different methods of balancing their games. Buddy Fight has a hard size limit of 3, whereas WeCross connects the size and level limit to your current Eleg's form. But In Nivel Arena, your size increases every turn as your leader levels up, but you also gain 1 point in your size limit for every card in your damage zone. Yes, this game uses size as its comeback mechanic, and it uses it pretty cleverly. Your size doesn't just affect the number of girls you can have. Ha ha. Okay, I'll stop now. It also includes the value of any equip cards you put into play. Any action cards you play also linger on your side of the field until they get cleared at the end of your turn, so there's actually benefits to not maxing out your size limit. This means that your size can go as high as 19, where your leader is at maximum level and you are 1 point away from losing this game of Goo Goo Babies. Meaning you can build some absolutely wild boards should the stars align properly. But of course, the logical conclusion would be to just wait until you can do 10 damage in 1 turn, right? Not so fast there, buckaroo, because this game also has a trigger system. And the quirk here is that they also double as stop cards. Most of the characters actually do more than 1 point of damage, but the moment a trigger is flipped, the rest of the damage is nullified and an effect happens. Such as Annis Sparkling Summer here, who sends herself to the trash pile and applies a debuff. Sends herself to the trash pile, as in out of the damage zone. Yeah, there's a reason your deck can only have 8 triggers in it. It's also really difficult to get to 10 damage in one go without waiting a long time for your level to go up if you're not taking any damage. So ideally, you want to properly pace out the damage you are doing over a stretch of turns to mitigate the effects of the trigger cards and keep your opponents at a manageable size. Also, my god, actual trigger effects that are something other than add this card to your hand. I've been starving for these, and the few cards that do get the add to hand effect are the deck's ace cards, meaning that they won't get milled away by this miniature life decking system. However, trying to overwhelm your opponent in maybe 1 or 2 turns worth of damage is at least an approach, even if it is a risky one, so there is still wiggle room for some personal expression. I guess if I have any complaint about this system, it's that they make you flip the leader card long ways rather than the short little flip that it probably ought to be. Oh right, leader cards. Leader cards tell you what cards you are allowed to use in your deck, and based on the fact that it is mentioned as an ability on the card itself, it means that things like multicolor or alternative allegiance leaders can totally be made, perhaps akin to Special Week from Shadowverse Evolve, who is allowed to break the normal typing rules. Oh god, the Hanses are back somehow! Also, most gain some sort of ability when they flip over, usually accomplished by hitting level 5. I like these systems a lot. It shows that there are many possible directions and new ideas that future leaders and decks can take, all within the rules of the game without a reminder prompt like Special Week requires. Different awakening requirements, different color or type allowances, different passive abilities, all because this one card type is designed so well. But that's not even the best part. Yes, I have praised all of these mechanics so far, and yet they still have one that is somehow even better. You see, like WeCross, your minions can only do battle with the minions in the lane right in front of them. But if your opponent attacks you, you don't have to block with the character in that lane. You can always choose to simply take the damage to the face. This is probably Magic the Gathering's most slept on mechanic when it comes to game design, is the ability to preserve your board state by taking the damage to the face instead. It's why I say that Magic the Gathering is a game about prediction. And I love how the mechanic is done this way, and Nivel Arena I think is the first lane-based one I have seen that gives you the option to preserve the cards on the board and simply take the damage. And it gets even better, because there is a color that has abilities that interact really well with this system. So, the color red is full of characters who gain a bonus effect if they win in combat, specifically defeating an opponent's character. So, the obvious way to prevent that effect from happening is to simply take the hit to the face. But damage adds up quickly. How many hits to the face are you willing to take before red is able to activate those abilities at will because one more hit would kill you? Yes, red, at least the cards I've seen so far, is a color that thrives on attrition. Red is usually seen as like the aggro color where it has a bunch of like easy, cheap damage to get out into play, but no. In this case, red grinds down your defenses, and then when they finally have you pinned down, get to activate all of their effects and swing for game. It is wild! Can you see how all these ideas and mechanics are cascading into each other? Heck, one of the cards I got in one of my booster packs is a red card that forces my opponent to block. You see? This is exactly what I'm talking about! By contrast, blue has an effect that lets a single character become the defender in any lane it is next to, though I think the ability is overpriced because it requires you to discard cards from your hand. Green is about buffing your units or benefiting from size, purple is classic high-risk nonsense, and yellow focuses on equipment cards. Yeah, I know, it's a familiar spread of colors, but only purple and green really feel like their Magic the Gathering counterparts. As I pointed out before, red is attrition rather than aggro and has good draw power of all things. Blue, being the defensive wall, is kind of insane, and yellow's focus on equipment is playing on just a niche of white. So yeah, there is a lot of complexity in the game where each color has a distinct approach. The size mechanic means that taking damage gets you an advantage whether a trigger goes off or not, but one of the things I really like is how the game has a clear and wide open pathway to experiment and improve. Like, imagine if there were an archetype who specialized in making the minion cards change lanes or forcing opponents to block or something. So for people who are asking what I like to see in new card games, what I like are, if not all new creative mechanics, then at least a strong twist on mechanics I have seen before that genuinely put them in a new light. I also like to see a clear path forwards for evolution, where a mechanic can be easily added or upended without having to make special rules or vastly change the playing field or introduce a new card type. At the end of the day, I think Nivel Arena is a genuinely good game, but like Elig, it's an amusing design in an unfortunately tacky wrapper. Apparently the newest set is based on a different gacha game, Epic 7, or is it Epic 7-7? However, if it's trying to go clean now, it certainly has an uphill battle to escape the reputation of being the Nikke trading card game. Oh, never mind. They're not even gonna try to shake that reputation, are they? Hey everybody, I hope you enjoyed the video. Like I said before, there's a good chance that this thing might get demonetized, so yeah, do like, subscribe, share, follow me on Patreon. I've got a cool box of junk I'm selling that's at a discounted price through the end of December, and yeah, until next time, this is Kohdok signing off. Bye!